My goodness gracious. The phone number here, 877-97-ERIC, 877-973-7425. I hope everybody weathered the storms okay. The further south you went, the better off you were. Those of you in Valdosta and Vidalia even, Quitman and Bainbridge and Waycross, I think you largely escaped. But, man, from middle Georgia north, we were without power here in Macon in our neighborhood for, gosh, most of Saturday night. Storms still coming, although they're now mostly north of Macon. I've got the radar up. Let me just fill you in right now. There is a flash flood warning, not a watch, but a warning in Coweta, Fayette, Meriwether, Pike, Spalding, Troop, Greene, Oglethorpe, Taliaferro, and Wilkes counties. I see Taliaferro, and I always say Taliaferro. It's Taliaferro. I have been yelled at plenty of times. You got two different store bans. Now, the one in Coweta, Fayette, Meriwether, Pike, Spalding, and Troop, it expires now in 4 hours, 52 minutes. The one in Greene, Oglethorpe, Taliaferro, and Wilkes County expires in 5 hours, 52 minutes. They are this line of storms stretched from LaGrange all the way over to Augusta, slightly north of Augusta, and Rome is now out of them. Clarksville and Athens is in the middle of it. Clarksville's got more coming in. Dalton and Jasper, by and large, are out of it right now. But if you're out at Lake Oconee, if you're in Augusta, really even in Middle Georgia, we got some rain moving through Middle Georgia. It's raining at my studio in Macon right now, although it's about to disappear from here as the radar shows it's all going to be north of here now. And it looks like there's going to be in the clear. Jasper and Rome, you're going to get a little more rain, and then it's going to be done for now. But we're going to have a rainy forecast around the state of Georgia today. So just make sure your headlights are on if it's raining where you are. You got a lot of rain. Really, the line, just so you get a sense of where the storm is, it is everything south of there until you get to a line from Columbus to Augusta is rain. Right now, it's 66 here where I am in Macon. I mean, talk about a warm winter. It is 55 in Adairsville, 61 in Rome, 52 Blue Ridge, 55 Carrollton, 54 Clarksville, 52 Dalton, 52 Jasper, 54 Rome, 68 all the way down in Valdosta, 66 in Vidalia. So mostly in the 60s here. It's going to warm up some, but it's supposed to start getting cool again after next weekend. Maybe we'll actually have some more winter. Our southern weathers are bizarre. What a mess the weather was. Now, we've got news we need to get to. I want to take care of that weather radar, though, because it has been a mess out there. Genuinely has been a mess out there. And I wanted to engage on that issue. Now, I also want to mention that tonight, well, I'm having a hard time. Let me treat you guys as confessional here. I know you want news, but you're my confession booth now, and I'm Presbyterian, so we don't do this. But I can't decide whether or not to watch the LSU Clemson game because I want LSU to win because I'm from Louisiana, and this is big, but I'm afraid if I watch, they're going to lose. So do I not watch and they win, or do I watch and potentially they lose? And I don't want to make, I know the Tigers are going to win jokes because everybody's doing that. But seriously, I don't know what to do. I'm thinking I'm going to have to sneak a peek at the game. I am. Okay, that's all I need to say about that. Turns out the New York Times was wrong. Surprise! The New York Times, remember, within 48 hours of Soleimani being killed, the New York Times ran a story that suggested that the people in the military were surprised, and in the intelligence community were surprised that the President of the United States had decided to execute Soleimani or give an order that he could be blown up. They did not know about it. They were discombobulated. In fact, one of the people told the New York Times they had thrown it into a stack of stuff, and that was what the president went with, and they put it in there so that all the other stuff would sound reasonable. Now, here's what you need to understand about this. Seriously, I hear these stories all the time, and they are by pattern and practice. A lot of ways, somebody did something to the president and they went with the most outlandish thing to make everything else seem reasonable. And oh no, the president went with the most outlandish decision. I've heard it when it comes to tariffs. I've heard it when it came to the Israeli to the embassy. I've heard it when it came to dealing with the what's his name, Khashoggi, the killing. On and on, these stories come up. They give Trump a list of options. They put one really crazy wild card in there so that it will steer him towards the more reasonable ones. And he always goes with it. You hear these stories all the time. And here comes a New York Times story that says the military, to deal with the Iraqi situation, the military decides to give Trump a list of options, and they throw in the Soleimani killing to make everything else seem more reasonable. And oh my God, regularly, it is fan fiction. We now know it's not true. Here, Qasem Soleimani, 7 months ago, if Iran's increased aggression resulted in the death of an American, according to 5 current and former senior administration officials. Now, note the rhetoric here. According to 5 current and former senior administration officials. Not 5 current and not 5 former, but 5 current and former. So it could be 1 current and 4 former senior administration officials. The presidential directive in June came with a condition that Trump would have final sign-off on any specific operation to kill Soleimani. The decision explains why assassinating Soleimani was on the menu of options the military presented to Trump 2 weeks ago for responding to an attack by Iranian proxies in Iraq in which a U.S. contractor was killed and that killed Soleimani. Officials have said Soleimani, the leader of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps' elite Quds force, was planning imminent attacks on Americans and had to be stopped. Now, here's the thing. In June, John Bolton, Trump's national security advisor at the time, urged Trump the idea, saying he'd take the step only if Iran crossed his red line, killing an American. The president's message was, that's only on the table if they hit Americans. Now, let's put this in perspective. The New York Times ran a story that the president went after Soleimani because someone in the military put it on a list of options, knowing that it was at the urging of Mike Pompeo as Secretary of State and John Bolton as National Security Advisor, that he should do it, but they wouldn't do it unless Soleimani took out Americans. Soleimani takes out Americans, he dies. Well, if you listen to NBC, they're saying the idea of an imminent attack was nonsensical because this has been 7 months in the works. If you listen to the New York Times, they say it hasn't been 7 months in the works. It was someone in the military put this in on the to try to make the president go with more reasonable options, and was shocked and appalled the president went with that option. Neither of these stories undermine the works for 7 months. Now, if you go with NBC News and not the New York Times, and frankly, I would go with NBC and not the New York Times because the New York Times has a history of running sources and sourcing that intend to willfully undermine the president of the United States. It wouldn't surprise me if the whistleblower was one of the New York Times sources. Remember, he is in the intelligence community. Sure, they rely on him now to make the president look bad, and it certainly seems in light of this NBC News report that the New York Times sources really did want to make the president look bad. But now the NBC story says the president decided on it 7 months ago. That could undermine the justification for it. What if, in addition to killing Americans, they did find, in fact, that the president and his intelligence operatives and the military found that there was an imminent attack that he was plotting? Now, I need to ask you this. Those of you who are skeptical of the president, and I am skeptical of the president, but I support him completely on this decision. Is the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff a liar? Is the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff a liar? He is a career military operative. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff right now is Mark Milley. Mark Milley has been chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff since October 1st. American Army General, 20th chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the highest ranking officer in the United States military. He previously served as 39th Chief of Staff of the Army. He was born in Massachusetts. He went to Belmont Hill School. He holds a Bachelor of U.S. Naval War College, graduate of the MIT Center for International Studies. He earned his commission as an armor officer through Princeton's Army Reserve Training Corps, the ROTC program, in 1980. He served in the 82nd Airborne Division, the 5th Special Forces Group, 7th Infantry Division, the 2nd Infantry Division, the Joint Readiness Training Center, the 25th Infantry Division, Operations Staff of the Joint Staff, and as a military assistant to the Secretary of Defense in the Pentagon. In November 2000, he participated in the 2nd Annual Army-Navy Ice Hockey Game in Honolulu. He's had multiple command and staff positions in 8 divisions and special forces throughout the last 39 years, to include command of the 1st Battalion, 506th Infantry, 2nd Infantry Division. Miley commanded the 2nd Brigade Combat Team, 10th Mountain Division Light from December 2003 to July 2005. Served as Deputy Commanding General of Operations for the 101st Airborne from July of 2007. The Corps based in Fort Hood, Texas from 2012 to 2014. He's the Commanding General of the U.S. Army Forces Command in Fort Bragg, North Carolina from 2014 to 2015. He was appointed Chief of Staff to the United States Army on October 14, 2015 by Barack Obama. On December 8, 2018, he was nominated by the president to serve as chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He took it, was voted on by the Senate, confirmed 89-1, sworn in September 30th, 2019. Is General Miley a liar? You have his resume. Is General Miley, Mark Miley, a liar? Had credible information that Soleimani was planning an imminent attack on Americans in the Middle East. Is he a liar? Is he just the president's yes man? This careerist military officer, the highest ranking member of the military, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, is he lying to protect the president over his soldiers? Because there are a lot of people in the media who subtly want you to believe that this man is a liar. President Trump came out and said it was an attack on American embassies that was the problem. No one has information to back up the president on that. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff doesn't have information on it. The Secretary of Defense doesn't have information. Knows what he's talking about. But the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the Secretary of Defense, the CIA director, the Secretary of State, the National Security Advisor, they all have said to Congress behind closed doors that there was an imminent attack in the works by Soleimani. The media wants you to believe there was no justification. Meanwhile, what's happening in Iran now? You have protesters marching in the streets, rejoicing that Soleimani was killed, and now wanting the Ayatollah out of office. The president certainly destabilized the Middle East by killing Soleimani. He destabilized Iran. The protesters feel emboldened. They're being gunned down in the streets. And do you know what the media is doing? They've moved on. They were perfectly happy to cover the number of people who showed up at Soleimani's funeral, but can they cover the number of people who were out in the streets rioting in Iran? Why? Because they don't dare risk the president looking good.
Honest news and conservative views.
Never separated.